All right, everybody, welcome to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. The 2021 NFL season is, it's actually underway right now with the Buccaneers and the Cowboys right now playing down in Florida. Our Steelers, of course, will kick it off 1 p.m. coming up on Sunday up in Buffalo in Western New York. And we need to do our season preview show. And oh, by the way, there was a little contract news earlier today, and that's probably what's going to lead the show off. We are expecting Ben to jump in at some point, but who the heck knows what he's doing. So Ian is with me. And Ian, the most important question of the night has nothing to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers or TJ Watt. It has to do with what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Great Lakes Oktoberfest because that's what's in my keg, and it's delicious.
Love it. And it is a seasonal brew as well. So
it is a seasonal brew.
I have figured since it's the season preview, I've got my 3 fingers of Bradshaw bourbon.
Nice.
And loving every minute of it. So
it is a good bourbon.
It's just
made a damn good bourbon.
I know this probably sounds a bit disturbing, but when I pull the cork, I smell it. It just smells so good, and it kind of is. It's like a teaser of this is what you're going to enjoy, So it's just a good bourbon, and yes. Thank God Terry's behind it. Anyway, Ian, I think we felt that this was going to get done with TJ Watt before the season actually started. I really think we did. But even though the news comes down today that it gets done, you still have this overall relief, this feeling of, all right. So first of all, just your general reaction, and then let's get into the numbers and stuff because that's what I think people want to hear about what he signed for, guarantees, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, general reaction, I agree, was a bit of relief. Like, okay, they got it done. Whew, okay. And some of it was relief that people can shut up on Twitter about it because like this week, everybody had an opinion one way or the other. And
it was bad.
You wrote a really good article. It was like, people don't have to take sides in this. Like, this is just the business of the game. It's how it is. Players are trying to maximize how much they can make, and teams are trying to minimize how much they have to put out in full guarantees. Like, it wasn't, and the reports that came out too, it wasn't an issue over total contract dollars that were in the deal. It was an issue over how much was guaranteed. And I'll say the one caveat that gets lost in a lot of contract discussions is that Major League Baseball and I believe NBA contracts, and I know NHL contracts are all fully guaranteed.
Yep.
So the NFL is the only one of the major sports where your contract is not fully guaranteed when you sign it, which is how you get players like Bobby Bonilla still collecting $1 million every July 1st because, he had a guaranteed contract and decided to defer payments and all that. So, but the NFL doesn't do fully guaranteed contracts, at least yet, other than rookie deals are mostly guaranteed. So, but for the numbers, the initial number that came out was that it was a 4-year, $112 million extension, which sounded a bit low because we had been talking, probably in the range of like 5 years, 150. But there's semantics in there. So the word extension is key because it tacks 4 years onto this year. So it's essentially a 5-year deal. And the I'll say semantics of the deal of, it being the quote unquote highest defensive contract ever, is that that's in new money. So it's $28 million per year in new money, which is higher than what Joey Bosa got in new money, but Watt also is still getting the, current $10 million that he was owed this year with his with his 5th-year option on his contract. So in total, it's a 5-year deal at about $122 million, which is actually a bit lower than kind of what we were expecting.
It was. I think the 28 was kind of a starting point. I think we thought that's where it would begin. So when I see the alert come across and I start doing the math, I'm like, whoa, yeah, 28. But I didn't see in the news blurb, I didn't see the guaranteed, and that of course came later. So explain that.
Yes, so it's $80 million fully guaranteed, which is also higher than Joey Bosa's $78 million that was fully guaranteed. So this was, and I know Ben has talked about this a lot, that the Steelers have never guaranteed anything beyond the first year of a contract. Well, they did it this year. So, or they did it this time. So, what they did was they gave him a $35 million signing bonus. So that gets split up into $7 million he gets, TJ Watt gets a check for $35 million today. Today, yes.
God, I can't even imagine.
And then, has a $1 million base salary this year that's broken up over 17 games. So essentially he's getting $36 million this year. But for salary cap purposes, that $35 million gets prorated over the life of the contract. So that's split into $7 million chunks over the 5 years. So effectively, the Steelers lowered his cap hit this year from the $10 million that he was owed on his 5th-year option to $8 million, which is that $1 million base plus the $7 million prorated bonus. So it's kind of a win-win here, right? TJ Watt gets $35 million today, or maybe tomorrow, because he signed it today.
Could be tomorrow. Yeah.
I think he could wait a day.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
But so he gets $35 million up front, and the Steelers actually save room against the salary cap. And this is why people say things like the salary cap is a myth, because there are ways to circumvent it like this.
Yeah.
And I kind of fall in the middle. That the salary cap is a real thing that you have to negotiate.
It is.
But at the same time, there are ways to do it. Coming into this offseason, we talked a lot about the salary cap trouble the Steelers were in, but we did not expect David DeCastro's ankle to fail, and we did not expect Vince Williams to retire. So there was a lot of things that they did. We didn't expect them to cut Steven Nelson. Those 3 things alone probably saved them $25 million right there.
Yeah.
So it's, is the salary cap a myth? Kind of. But is it also reality that you can move numbers around? Also, yes. All right, but I'm getting off track here. So the rest of TJ's contract. So year 1, $1 million base, $35 million signing bonus. Year 2 is a $24 million fully guaranteed base salary. Year 3 is a $20 million fully guaranteed base salary. So this is something the Steelers have never done in the past. They've never done fully guarantees beyond the first year.
Right.
Something that I expected them to do, but they didn't do, was that they in the past have put roster bonuses in years 2 and 3 that they then convert to a signing bonus and can prorate those numbers over the rest of the deal. They did not do that this time. They just did it as a fully guaranteed base salary, but because it is fully guaranteed, my daughter's awake.
Nope, Maggie's joining us.
Yes, she is. But because it is fully guaranteed, it gives them the ability to fairly easily convert it to a signing bonus. Because they can say, hey, TJ, you're going to make $24 million fully guaranteed this year. You're going to make that in 17 game checks of, slightly over $1.5 million, basically.
Right.
What if we just pay you $23 million today and give you a $1 million base salary, and then we can prorate that 23 over the remaining 4 years of the contract? And that's another win-win kind of deal. So, what the contract looks like now will probably not be the salary cap numbers in outlying years, because they will have the ability to move some money around. But nevertheless, it is what it is, that, those numbers are fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
The $24 million in 2022, $20 million in 2023. And then he has salaries of slightly over $21 million in the last 2 years, 2024, 2025. So that is just how it goes.
It is.
And the other thing too, if you look at his age being 27 years old, his guaranteed salaries are his age 27, 28, 29 seasons. So the guarantees drop off after he hits his age 30 season. So 30, some pass rushers, if they keep themselves in good shape, have tended to last a little longer. You've got your Justin Houstons, James. I don't really count James Harrison as much playing into his late 30s because he didn't play as much in his early 20s, so his body was a little bit fresher. His age was older, but his years of experience and his snap numbers weren't as much. So, but
it's like Indiana Jones. It's not the age, it's the mileage, or the years, it's the mileage.
Yeah, exactly. Although they ran out of mileage after the third one and made a fourth and now a fifth one.
I know. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a great day for Steeler Nation, and to have TJ back and get the just that doubt erased. He's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler now. And it wasn't long after we found out about the numbers and the fact that he had come to agreement that Adam Schefter of ESPN revealed exactly how this went down. And it is one of, when I visualize it,
It's the most quintessential Pittsburgh Steelers story you can imagine.
Absolutely. It's just the level of, to steal from one of our favorite Twitter accounts, I think 70 Sports, the level of badassery that took place here. TJ Watt went into Art Rooney II's office and essentially went over his agents who were trying to get more money and said, enough's enough. I'm done. It's a deal. We're done. And he said, tell me what I need to do. I got to go get a workout in. And that was it. And he left. And I just, for me, that's just fascinating. I'm totally fascinated by it. I think it's hilarious. I think, and as you said, it is the most Pittsburgh thing ever. It's
almost reminiscent. So, thinking back to Troy Polamalu's Hall of Fame speech, right? Troy said the greatest compliment you could get from a previous guy is that you could have played with us, right?
Yes.
It's almost like something you could imagine like a Joe Green or a Jack Lambert doing, just walk in and be like, all right, I'm going to play here. Tell me where to sign. I'm going to go work out. It's something you could imagine those guys doing, of being like, working out's more important to me than signing some piece of paper, but we're done. I'm going to play here. It's over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think,
and one other thing too, I want to say that, yes, TJ went over his agent's head in a sense. But also, TJ went about this the right way. He didn't, it was quote a soft holdout, you could say, but I mean, he was in the facility. He was at team meetings. He wasn't on the field practicing with them, but like he was still working out. He was there with the team, trying to get something done. I mean, he showed his commitment to being with the team.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like Le'Veon Bell, who was sitting at home playing video games,
working on his rap career.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that the comments by Ben Roethlisberger and today Cam Hayward, do you think those had any influence at all? Because they really were a little out of character for both guys to say that, especially when both were in the facility. Both are at the Steelers facility. This isn't like they were doing a radio show from home or a podcast or something like that. They were there. And as we know, Ben said, I think he deserves whatever the heck he wants. And Cam essentially said the same thing. Do you think it had anything to do, or is it just we're looking too much at it?
I mean, I guess here's the question is, what we don't know from Adam Schefter's story is if the Steelers changed their offer at all.
Right.
That, the way it sounds is the Steelers had a number on the table and Watt's agent wanted a higher number in guarantees. And, so looking at the deal too, like we said, and the reports from Jerry Dulac and other people were that the total money wasn't the issue. It seemed like that kind of 4 years, $112 million, an average of 28 per year, which is higher than Joey Bosa. Those all, seem to be agreeable numbers, and were probably agreed upon already. That the rub was just the guarantees. So if you're looking at how much of that's guaranteed, the Steelers had an offer on the table at number X. His agent wanted X plus whatever. And the way Schefter made it sound was that TJ just walked in and was kind of like, all right, I'll just take your X number, which was $80 million over 3 years.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, if Ben and Cam's words changed anything, it would have been to have the Steelers guarantee more money, but we don't know if they actually offered more or not. So, but it does show, solidarity amongst the players.
It does.
The team leaders, the team captains are standing up with the young guys and kind of presenting a united front and all that. So the other thing I thought was interesting was, Micah Fitzpatrick kind of saying, oh yeah, I'm paying pretty close attention to how this goes. So, but we're going to be in the same spot with Minka that we were with TJ, because with TJ, there had been, you had Joey Bosa, you had Myles Garrett,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a couple other highly paid edge defender contracts that
Yep.
had been handed out over the last 2 or 3 years. And now with Minka, you've had the Justin Simmons deal, and you've had the Jamal Adams contract, and there's been a couple other
Mm-hmm.
safeties that have kind of broken that $15 million a year
What was the
boundary.
Harrison Smith one in Minnesota? Because that's the one that kind of caught my attention. He's
Yeah,
32, I think.
yeah,
So yeah, if I'm Minka, I'm thinking, hey, back up the Brinks truck, baby.
yeah,
You
yeah. And
know.
I mean, and edge defenders are paid a lot more than safeties.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think for safeties, the top end of the market was 15. Harrison Smith he's 32. Wow.
Yeah. That was the stunner for me, is his age plus what he got.
Yeah, yeah. It was 5 years, 51.5 in new money. 10 million signing bonus, 15 fully guaranteed. Total guaranteed's 28 and change, but I'm sure that's for injury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he got a big number for his age.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're gonna probably have to fork over 17 plus for Minka, which, I mean,
Yeah.
he's made it. He's the only safety in the league that's been an All-Pro each of the last 2 seasons. So you can't say he doesn't deserve it.
And there's no reason to think he won't have a similar season this year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you put together 3 straight All-Pro seasons,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll cross the Minka Bridge when we get to it, but it's definitely
Yes.
approaching. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
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 So the Steelers will, of course, kick it off on Sunday in Buffalo, and I know most of Steeler Nation is ready. We're ready. It's been a long off season, to say the least. And so as we look at the season, we know what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a very young, unproven offensive line. We are dealing with a rookie running back that everyone expects literally the moon and the stars from. We have a maybe a newly committed Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know if that's fair to say that. I don't mean to say he was never committed, but he just seems to be really all in on this, maybe more so than ever before. You've got a defensive line that's a little questionable because Stephon Tuitt's going to be out for minimum first 4 games. And no real true slot corner, at least as of right now, as we sit here right now. So there's a lot of questions here. And you throw in the fact you've got the hardest schedule on paper in the NFL as well. What am I forgetting, Ian?
I was going to ask, did you hear Mike Tomlin's interview early this week when they asked him about the slot corner?
What was his response?
So I think it was Kaboli or someone asked him, he's like, you didn't name a starting, nickel corner on your depth chart. Was that, is that going to be Cam Sutton? Was that out of design? What are you going to do? Are you just going to stick James Pierre on the outside all the time? And Tom was like, that's very perceptive of you. He's like, I did that intentionally, so we had some element of mystery going into the first game.
What it was is he did not list the position.
Yeah.
So there was no need to put a name there. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So, look, I think I speak for a lot of Steelers fans and probably not all, but a lot. We were 11-0 last year, and I don't think anybody knew what was coming in those final 5. But I also think that most of us recognized that we weren't a dominant 11-0 team. There were a lot of cracks in the armor. We had some fortunate moments in games.
Yeah, let's be honest. There was 2 games in a row there that we probably should have lost. I mean, we got out to a big lead against Tennessee and nearly blew it. And then we got dominated in the first half against Baltimore a week later and came back in the second half and won. I think I remember saying on this show, like, over the last 8 quarters of football, we've played 2 that were good and 4 that were awful. And somehow we won both games.
No, you're right. I remember you saying that. Just real quick before we get too much further, don't forget we are presented by DEK Roofing, serving Broward and Southern Palm Beach counties Whether commercial, residential, multifamily, or condos, contact DEK Roofing today by visiting deckroofing.com. And I'm very proudly wearing my DEK Roofing, I'm moving in the wrong direction, my DEK Roofing t-shirt tonight. John Deck always taking care of the boss, well, as he refers to me sometimes, or something like that.
On the schedule, here's what I'll say is that this Steelers team with Ben Roethlisberger, like we saw last year, is capable of winning games we don't think they should win. You know, you look at the schedule and you're like, October 3rd, they got to go to Green Bay, play Aaron Rodgers, you know. And, you know, we've got Tennessee, we've got Baltimore, we've got Kansas City. There's a lot of, there's tough games on this schedule.
Brutal.
But at the same time, you know, with Ben, we're never out of a game. You know, if Ben isn't our quarterback, we're probably in a situation where we're going to beat the teams we should beat and lose the teams that are better than us. You know, it's that type situation.
I would agree.
So, you know, I don't think we're going to be 11-0 to start this season, but I still think we're a better than 500 team, and we are the defending division champions. You know, everyone wants to get on the Browns bandwagon because they beat us in the playoffs last year and beat Mason Rudolph the last week of the season. So congratulations. But let's not forget the Browns won a bunch of really close games last year, and teams that have a disproportionate record in close games tend to regress the following season. So, you know, Cleveland won, and we talked about this last year. Cleveland won a lot of games last year where, you know, they either almost blew leads in the fourth quarter and like basically needed to recover an onside kick in the final 2 minutes to you know, preserve their win, or someone missed a field goal late or something like that, you know, could have easily flipped the script a different way for them. So I'm not sold on Cleveland. You know, they get better this year, you know, with, you know, healthy wide receivers and all that. But you know, at some point they're gonna have to pay Baker Mayfield too. Baltimore's had a plethora of injuries and had a couple more today.
My God.
But I mean, they're still a well-coached, well-rounded team, and they're going to come out and play hard and competitive. I mean, I would not be surprised to see the North have 3 playoff teams again this year.
I wouldn't either.
But I'm not counting us out as potential division champions either. I mean, I think, you know, with the competitiveness of the division, I mean, I could see 10-7, 11-6 winning this division. That you know, I think we're good enough to win 9. I think we're definitely good enough to win 9 if Ben plays the whole year, and then after that, you know, maybe win 1 or 2 others, and all of a sudden that's 10 or 11 wins, and that's enough. So, yeah, and the other thing I will say with the, you know, the extra game that got added in, we have to play Seattle, but the NFC West is a slaughterhouse. I mean, if
it is.
The 49ers were bad last year because everyone was hurt. But other than that, like, Arizona's a tough opponent. The Rams are going to be even better this year because they actually have a quarterback that can throw the ball down the field, which I must say, rest in peace to the Sean McVay only won with Jeff Fisher's players meme, because now that
not getting that anymore.
Now that Jared Goff is gone, I can't make that joke anymore. But nevertheless, I mean, that's arguably the best division of football there, the NFC West. So it's not like the rest of our division got off easy with whoever they have to play. You know, we got Seattle, which is tough, but you know, the other matchups are not going to be easy either. So it's not like we all got, like, you know, the NFC North where someone's getting Detroit and someone else is getting Green Bay. Like, you know, someone's getting San Francisco and someone's getting Seattle. Like, there's not much of a difference between those two teams.
No, I think that's a good point.
If they're all fully healthy. So,
no, I think those are very valid points, and it's true. And just if people listening didn't catch it, you know, Baltimore has already lost J.K. Dobbins to an ACL. They lost Justice Hill, I think it was, to an Achilles. Today they lost cornerback Marcus Peters with, I believe, an ACL, and also Gus Johnson. Not Gus Johnson, Gus Edwards. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the TV announcer, Gus Edwards, who's a guy I've always liked. He's always scared me more sometimes than other running backs in Baltimore, because the guy literally gets 5 yards of crack. He's out for the year. I mean, it's just and look, we hate the Ravens, and we know everybody listening hates the Ravens, but I hate to see that. I just hate to see all these guys bust ass all year long, only to get hurt at this particular point in the season. But it is what it is. Our Steelers have been on the end of that too. So
I'm not crying any tears.
No,
for him, but
I won't either.
I'll say I would much rather have the Ravens be fully healthy and go 0-16 than have the Ravens be all injured and go 0-16.
Well,
So,
it's the old, don't back the injured animal into the corner thing that worries me because, Harbaugh is a complete tool, but the guy knows how to coach. Yeah. He gets a lot out of those players.
And Lamar is still dangerous, although we will see this year if he can actually throw the football when he needs to. And but I'm not crying any tears over him because a couple of years ago we lost not only Ben but also James Conner and Juju, and let's not forget we went into New England for an AFC Championship game with like Kobe Hamilton as our top wide receiver because Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant were both hurt. So and then Le'Veon Bell got hurt in that game too. So
no tears.
Injuries happen to everyone, and it's really, it's the NFL's a war of attrition more so than it is anything else. It's almost who's the healthiest team going into the playoffs that has the best chance, and
that was the Buccaneers last year. They had tremendous health last year, and is on the likeliness that'll stick around. I don't know. I'm going to throw out a few statements at you, and you just either over, under, or true, false here, and we can talk. I'm going to put Big Ben at 26 TD passes. You looking over, under?
26.
I'll go 3 last year.
Yeah, over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go over because not only because he had more last year, but also because we have a running back that's capable of taking a check down pass and taking it a long way to the end zone. That, we have more explosive playmakers. I think Chase Claypool is going to have a monster season as long as he can stay healthy. I think Juju should be better this year. And I think that, so I don't know. Do you have a statement on the tight ends, or can I make a statement on the tight ends?
No, go ahead.
All right. Eric Ebron will have more yards, but Pat Freiermuth will have more touchdowns.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
So I think we have more red zone weapons, and we also have an offensive coordinator that's going to be better at putting the ball in the end zone than we did last year when we kicked so many field goals, or had so many drives kind of fizzle out. And like we talked about in the preseason, that's the difference in the NFL. Anyone can get you between the 20s. Backup quarterbacks can get you between the 20s. It's who can get it into the end zone for you. And that's the difference.
Was it 2 seasons ago? Well, 2 seasons would have been his injury, but was it the last season before he had the elbow surgery that we were like top in the league in the red zone?
I think so.
Yeah, we were
one of the top.
Okay, here's your next one. Not true or false. Najee Harris will break Franco Harris's rookie rushing record.
What was that? 1,200 yards?
I think it was just over 12.
Okay. I'm going to say yes because we have 17 games. I mean, Harris had 14 games?
14. We've got 17. Yeah, people forget that. It's 3 more games.
Yeah.
I agree. I think so too.
That said, I don't think Harris is going to have a good game against Buffalo. Buffalo's run defense is pretty good. Buffalo's pretty stout up front. So don't. I know we'll get into talking about the Bills game, but
we will.
Don't overreact if the Steelers kind of get their ass kicked and get off to a slow start here.
Don't overreact. Listen to you.
Well,
Steelers fans as well as I do.
I know. They're gonna be coming for everyone's head.
Oh my God. Okay, here's another one for you. The Steelers record for sacks of the season is James Harrison, I believe, at 16.
16 and a half.
Is it a half?
16.
I couldn't remember.
It might be 16.
Does TJ get to 16?
I'm going to say no, but it'll be close.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm falling too.
I think Like I was actually thinking like 15. If you had asked me 15 and a half, I would not have had a good answer for you. It was 16 in 2008.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah, I think he's going to be just a little shy myself. I just, not for lack of effort and trying and everything else. I just think that, I do think the combination of Highsmith and Ingram, I think, is going to bring home a few sacks as well. And
I think they will, and I think teams will also start shading him more. That
going to have to.
Last season and the season before too, they had to deal with the speed of Bud Dupree, and even if Dupree was taking those high arcs that he couldn't close on the quarterback,
right?
Watt, at least when he came out initially, was a lot more of an effort player, and then sort of developed a lot of these strong pass rush moves that he has. And I mean, Watt's incredibly explosive and all that, but he doesn't have the jump that Bud Dupree had. And I think teams were doing a lot more double teaming of Dupree with like chipping him with a running back and things like that, because they just knew the tackle couldn't get out quick enough,
right,
to stop his speed rush. Highsmith is a lot more of a power technique kind of rusher than a speed rusher. And so is Ingram, I think, a bit more of a power technique.
Definitely.
When Ingram came out, he reminded me a lot of James Harrison, because he's a little smaller in stature,
right,
but he's stout and he's got that really good rip cut move that he can get underneath. So, I think that they might chip and double team Watt a lot more with running backs and tight ends, that kind of stuff they were doing to Dupree last year, and occasionally to Watt. But I think Watt's going to see more of it this year.
I would be shocked if we didn't. Newly acquired Joe Shobert. He's had over 100 tackles the last 4 seasons. Does that continue this year?
As long as he stays healthy. As long as he stays healthy, yeah. I mean, he's going to be a 3-down player. They fully anticipate, putting him out there, which get ready to watch him try and cover Stephon Diggs on 3rd down this week.
Oh, God.
Because I'll give Sean McDermott and the Bills credit. I mean, last year when we played them, they did a really good job finding matchups in the second half. I mean, it was a close game in the first half, and they just found something that worked in the second half and just kept doing it. And most of that was throw the ball to Stephon Diggs. So, which I'll also say, though, Joe Hayden was hurt in that game. So
he was.
So that may make a bit of a difference if, we can have Hayden covering Diggs this year.
Yeah, good point. As far as the Bills game, we'll talk a little bit about that right now, Ian, and then we'll kind of give our season predictions and who we might have in the Super Bowl and that kind of stuff before we get on out of here. But the Bills have beaten us the last 2 times, once in Heinz Field, and then of course last year. Buffalo is a very hot Super Bowl pick for a lot of people. Josh Allen is an MVP candidate. A lot of people like him for that. They run the ball well, play pretty darn good defense.
Yeah.
They've got a great home crowd. We don't always play real well there. What's it going to take to win this game coming up on Sunday?
Not turn the ball over. The last couple of times we played them, we've turned the ball over a lot. I mean, one was Duck Hodges just being like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll use my limp arm and just throw it up for Tre'Davious White, one of the top 3 corners in the league, to just pick it off 3 times. Sure, yeah, that'll work great." But then last time, we played them after Ben's knee injury when our offensive line was terrible.
Yep.
James Conner was hurt. We had no running game, and Ben had to get the ball out quick, and they just sat on those short routes, and they jumped one, ran it back for a touchdown. And just don't turn the ball over. That's is really the key. And score touchdowns and don't kick field goals is what it is, because Buffalo's going to score points. I mean,
I agree.
Our defense is really good, but Buffalo's offense is also really good. And I don't want this to happen, but I would not be surprised if this game winds up like 31-13 Buffalo. Unfortunately,
I've had that in my head for the last 3 or 4 months. I really do. I think I just don't like the way that we start sometimes. Even winning in New York last year, we weren't overly impressive,
And we have an extra week off this year with this bye week. So Ben Roethlisberger has gone 2 weeks without playing, and we all know that it usually takes Ben a couple weeks into the season to kind of just get into his rhythm. And I feel like bye weeks actually hurt this team sometimes, that they play better when they're in that rhythm of just playing week in and week out and all that, so I'm really not at all worried about like our games against the Bengals and Raiders, but I'm a lot worried about this game against Buffalo. The other thing too is that, Josh Allen can make a lot of things happen with his feet. And even with Devin Bush and Joe Schobert in the middle, running quarterbacks have always given us problems, especially on those and where it really hurts is those third and medium situations, where we're trying to bring a blitz and we drop into some exotic zone. And if the blitz doesn't get home quickly, the quarterback has a lot of room to run. And when you have guys like Josh Allen and you only need 4 or 5 yards, it's pretty easy to pick it up. So, we've got to, I'll add getting off the field on third downs to that list.
It is huge.
An essential thing. Yeah.
I think I'll say that I think if Najee has some success early on running the football, then I think that's going to make a huge difference for Ben. He won't feel like he's got to win the game. He won't feel like he's got to make all the throws. I think that's going to be huge. And that's going to be much easier said than done. As you alluded to, Buffalo's pretty solid at defensively. And I think they were mid-table against the run, but
we've got some questions on the line too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, I think that'll be huge if we can get some semblance of a running game going, because if we have to revert to what we looked like last year earlier than we want to on Sunday, then 31-13 might be not generous enough, I should say.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that, like we said, last year, Ben was coming off the knee injury. The line couldn't block. If the line can block just a little bit this year, we can push the ball down the field against this team. I mean, think back to the AFC Championship game and what the Chiefs did to beat them. They threw the ball down the field and they pressured Josh Allen all the time. I mean, they brought blitzes a lot in his face, that they were all over him. And I think if we're going to have success on defense slowing him down, we're going to have to bring pressure and just hope that our guys can cover on the outside.
What is your prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021? We've talked on this show many, many times about the strengths, the weaknesses, the concerns, the things we're happy about. Where do you have them finishing this year?
I'd say my gut feeling's around 10-7, maybe even 11-6, but I think 10-7 is a good number. The 17 games is weird,
It's very weird.
Trying to think about this in a 16 game context. They're better than an 8-8 team. They're, and the way I'm thinking about it is they're probably a 10-win team, even in a 16 game schedule. They won 12 last year, so they're not that good, but they're probably a 10-win team. With the extra game being against a good opponent in Seattle, maybe they lose that game. So, I think 10-7 is probably right around where I have them.
I went 9-8, and I think the reason I did that is because I just need to see what this offensive line is going to do. I'm just not confident. That doesn't mean I hope for ill will or anything like that. Of course, I just don't know. They've had such little time together. They're so inexperienced. That's my major concern. My other concern is Ben and overall health. Will he be able to play all 17 games? Will he be able to play, let's say, 14 or 15 games? So I just think when you look at it, you combine it with the road games that we have, and just the overall schedule, that's where I'm at. I think it'll be good enough to get us in the postseason. I from there, as you know, Ian, anything's possible, especially if we play well late. But I think we'll struggle in Buffalo, and then I think we'll pick things up. We got 2 straight home games against winnable opponents, and I think we'll be okay for most of the year. But just that late season thing, it does worry me. So that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously, we hope for more. Now, have you had any opportunity to really think about who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl at all?
I mean, it's so hard to pick against Kansas City. Unless Patrick Mahomes got hurt, I liken this to, he's so far and away the best quarterback in
He's
the
really good.
AFC.
Yeah.
We talked about Buffalo. Buffalo's really good, and Josh Allen's really good.
Yep.
And deservedly so of MVP discussion. But all the other teams in his division got better this year from where they were last year. I think New England is going to be better.
Yep.
They had a lot of guys opt out last year, and they have a quarterback in Mac Jones who I didn't love coming out, but he meshes very well with what they want to do offensively in the sort of Tom Brady mold of be quick and accurate and don't turn the ball over.
Yes.
And he is quick and accurate and doesn't turn the ball over.
No, that's well said. Yeah.
And they're always a good defensive team. I think the Jets got better. A lot of people kind of crapped on Zach Wilson coming out as a quarterback. That whatever it was, people liked him, but then he went to the Jets, and people were like, maybe
the fact that he looks like a 15-year-old teen heartthrob.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And but I think Zach Wilson is also better than what the Jets had last year in Sam Darnold. And Miami going with Tua this year. He wasn't super impressive last year, but they were also a pretty good defensive team last year.
Yeah.
So, and they wound up with a pretty good record, kind of mixing and matching quarterbacks too. So, I think the other teams in that division are all better than they were last year. The cakewalk is for Tennessee in the AFC South.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
You really would. I mean, Jacksonville is going to be better than last year, but Trevor Lawrence just has so much to overcome organizationally just being in Jacksonville. Houston's just mailing it in this year pretty much.
Yeah.
And their only threat really is Indy, who's kind of relying on Carson Wentz, who either A, stinks or B, is hurt most of the time. So, it's going to be that's easily Tennessee's division to lose. And actually Tennessee could get the number 1 seed in the AFC just because they have 6 very winnable games there.
Right.
In the West, Denver's going with Teddy Bridgewater. And actually, Bridgewater hasn't been terrible anywhere he's been. He's a sort of middle of the road quarterback, but he's always kind of been that transition guy to someone else. The Chargers are always a trendy pick. Justin Herbert, it looked really good at times last year and looked really bad at other times.
Yeah.
Kind of went through that rookie stuff, but they've got the Chargers thing has always been health. If they can stay healthy,
absolutely,
they look good. But
absolutely,
if they can't, they just always get bit by the injury bug.
Yep.
And then the Raiders, who the hell knows about Oakland or Vegas, to be honest? Because the thing that sticks in my head is there was a tweet last year that someone said the Las Vegas Raiders exist solely to remind us that the Kansas City Chiefs can be beat, but only once a year. Because it seems like
they do.
The Raiders will always come out and beat the Chiefs once, and that's okay, the Chiefs are mortal, they're beatable, okay, but then but really, I think Kansas City's the cream of the crop. I have a hard time picking against them to make it back to the Super Bowl. I'd probably put, if I was making tiers, I'd say Kansas City would be my top tier from the AFC. Buffalo and Tennessee are probably in that second tier. But then that third tier is kind of wide open between, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, the Chargers, maybe New England, maybe Miami. I wouldn't put Miami quite up there. I put Miami more with Indy, and a team that has a question mark. But the Raiders were right in the playoff mix last year too.
Down to the last week.
So, so you can't count them out either. So, and with 7 teams making the playoffs, 17 games, there's a lot of things that can happen. And key injuries late in the year can swing things dramatically too.
Huge.
And looking at the NFC, the NFC South is almost like the AFC South, that everyone's just kind of rolling over and letting the NFC South caught AFC East itis, and they're just Tom Brady's here. We're all just suck now.
It's amazing, but it's like he goes to the best team, and then everybody else in the division sucks.
The NFC East still sucks. I wouldn't. Everyone's picking Dallas, and Dallas has the best quarterback in the division, but
I think so.
Washington might be the most well-rounded team.
Good defense.
Washington was impressive last year.
Mhm.
Late in the season, they started to put it together.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have, Taylor Heineke playing quarterback against Tampa, they might have beat them. Like they almost beat Tampa. Let's not forget that
that's
wild
right.
card game.
That's right.
So, Green Bay still has Aaron Rodgers, still a threat. Minnesota and Chicago, I kind of feel like are right in that tier of like they could either win the division or they could go like 5-12 or 6-11 or whatever
especially Minnesota with a quarterback who is not vaccinated. I mean, you're looking at if he has to miss games, he's going to miss games in a row minimum. So
and Chicago, despite having Mitch Trubisky, who was terrible last year, somehow still made the playoffs.
They did.
And, so now they've got two quarterbacks that are better than Trubisky. I mean, Andy Dalton's not great, but he's still better than Mitch Trubisky. And then you've got Justin Fields waiting in the wings too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're still going to have that question hanging over them all year is, when's Justin Fields going to play? How long is Andy Dalton going to start? So, neither of them are serious Super Bowl contenders. And then you have the NFC West where like, all four of those teams could make the playoffs and are good enough to make the playoffs.
Right.
And like you said, it's a dogfight. They're going to beat each other up. And, I don't know who comes out of there. San Francisco's got the same quarterback questions that Chicago has. Garoppolo's good, but you traded up to take Trey Lance. You're going to go to him sooner or later. You invested a lot to move up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still say probably like, as much as I hate to say it, like Tampa and Green Bay are probably the class of the NFC.
Yep.
Just because they have some easier games on their schedule too. The Rams have kind of been a trendy Super Bowl pick, and I think the Rams probably are better this year than they were in past years. But I mean, I'd say if I had to pick right now, I would say Kansas City and Green Bay in the Super Bowl, as much as I hate to not pick the Steelers. But
no, I'm with you. I to be realistic, I think if we stay healthy, then and the O-line comes together, then sky's the limit type thing. But no, I'm with you. I mean, Tampa Bay, every starter coming back, I do expect they're going to have some injury problems because
they had a couple corners go down tonight already, which is probably their thinnest position. Yeah.
Okay. So I think they're still right there. For me, it's them and Green Bay battling it out again. And I think in the AFC, it's Kansas City. I will say this though, if the Chargers stay healthy, I think they're going to be there at the end. I like the Herbert kid. He showed me a lot last year. Yes, he had some rookie mistakes, and will he have the sophomore jinx? Maybe, but they're right there too. And I know you mentioned Cleveland earlier. Cleveland, I mean, there's so much talent. It might be the most talented roster in the NFL, just top to bottom. But
but here's the question though. I mean, it's a quarterback league,
right?
And Cleveland is good, and Baker Mayfield is good when they can play with a lead and they can run the ball and he can throw play action. I mean, I think we talked about last year that Baker Mayfield on play action passes had a passer rating like that would have led the league. Like he was way above everybody else. But his passer rating on non-play action passes would have put him like 20th or 23rd in the league, down around. It was pretty bad.
It was bad. It was.
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact number, but it was pretty bad. So if they get behind people, I don't know if they can come back, but it's just, they need to stay out in front of people.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that's the way I view them too. And I'm just excited that we're going to get to see the Steelers and the starters on the field. I'm excited that TJ Watt is pretty much on his way to being a Steeler for life now. I think the Iron City lights will be on him tonight. I think he can afford them. And anyway,
he might even be able to afford something a little nicer, like a seasonal craft beer.
Yeah, there you go. Several of them, maybe even a seasonal craft brewery. the way he's going. But well, we're going to check on Ben as soon as we're off the air here because we have no idea what the hell happened to him tonight.
Actually, that brings up an interesting point, though. It'll be interesting to see what he does with his money because I don't know if you've noticed this trend, but like guys in the NFL who get big guaranteed money contracts have been like investing in other sports teams. Like, granted, Patrick Mahomes got $500 million.
A little different,
yeah. But he like bought a share of the Kansas City Royals, so and became like a part and like a decent share too. It wasn't just like he bought one share; like he bought a sizable chunk of the Royals. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if TJ decides to invest that in anything else. I know there have been some guys that have invested in some professional soccer teams or even mid-level professional soccer teams.
Well,
things
I know this much. There's no way in hell he should be invested in the Pirates. So don't even think of that, TJ. Actually, what I can see TJ doing is investing in Culver's. The fast food joint based out of his home, Wisconsin, with the cheese curds. He loves the cheese curds. He goes to Culver's every time he heads back there. So I could see that. But yeah, it's just great. It's fun to talk about now, and I'm glad it's done. And we'll probably do this all over again with Minka next year. But in any case, we hope everybody enjoyed the show, and make sure you check out the website steelcityblitz.com. Check us out on Facebook and of course on Twitter at SCBlitz and everything else there too. So that'll be it for us tonight, and we will be talking to you next week after the opening game for the Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. And enjoy it, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. This has been the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers!
Ravens suck, and ranch is better than blue cheese.